Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another Fool's Gold review, and in this Fool's Gold review we have Brian Michael Bendis, Justice League, Leagues of Chaos Part 1 and issue 72. Well, to those who are new to Fool's Gold, just to give you a rough idea how this works is that, as you can see here, we've got a bit of a currency conversion. So the currency conversion for this is $4.99, which means $8.95 is how much I paid for it. Now, another thing with Fool's Gold is I give a value of how much I believe the cover art is worth, the internal art is worth, and the story is worth. And from that we get a total, and if it reaches the total to which I actually paid for it, well, it means it gets to be removed off the Fool's Gold list. If it doesn't, well, it stays on the list until the storytelling gets way better. So jumping into first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough, it does, to which I give it a 7 out of 10. But for the overall amount, so how much I believe it's worth, $1.50 Australian. So I'll leave that for those in the US to convert back to US dollars to see if Brian Michael Bendis is actually starting to make his money back. The next thing is moving into the internal art. So we'll have a look at the art around the beginning, middle and end of the story. Starting now. So as we start at the beginning of the story, as you can see, we've got way too much dark in the story. At least when Scott Snyder and Tinian were actually doing the Justice League Dark story, especially Tinian, it wasn't this dumb and darkened. Just being honest here. Alright, I'll now move towards the middle. As we start to move towards the middle of the story, we learn of a character who has decided to somehow come back, and from the great past. That trope seriously needs to end. Why not bring someone maybe from the future? Or maybe a new character that might become a new villain to the Justice League. That also becomes a bit of a villain to Justice League Dark. And last but not least, ending off with the Tower of Fate and the stuff happening there. For the internal art, I also gave it a 7 out of 10, to which I believe it's worth $1.50. Now it's time to jump into the story rating. And to those again who might be new to my review ratings of how I rate things, there are some certain things that I like to personally ask for, or personally look out for. Number one, does this story give any comic book references? In other words, is there any comic reference that might be connected to, say, for example, the Justice League line that Brian Michael Bendis is working, or maybe a previous line to which Brian Michael Bendis didn't work on, which might also be important to this present story. Why? Because it helps in regards to giving the reader an understanding of the continuity of the story, whether it be yourself or myself. The answer is no, we didn't. Did that affect the story rating? I'm afraid to say it did. And you'll soon see how much it affected the story rating. What about the area of time? Do we get any indication of what time of day this is taking place? The answer is no, not at all. Did that affect the story rating? You bloody bet it did. Moving into the next area, locations. The locations help let us know what areas in the DC universe these characters are going to. And without these areas, how can you identify an area without certain descriptions that might show up? And if these aren't identified, well, it's quite likely that you've probably got somewhat, or what could be somewhat, a terrible story, or an underlying good story, but with bad directions. So, we, of course, have the Hall of Justice. You know, it was pointed out in picture. We also had Kandak, as it was actually pointed out by a heading. And last but not least, the Tower of Fate, also pointed out by a heading. The cast of characters consisting of Justice League Dark and the Justice League. We also encounter someone by the name of Zehuti. And last but not least, Xanadov, which the character needs to die off. To be honest, it's a waste of space. It's as bad as bloody Rogals are. So anyone who remembers the Rogals are BS that Brian Michael Bendis did in his earlier Superman, especially his Man of Steel. If you really want to pick up some great Brian Michael Bendis, go check out his Joy Operations, which is presently out now, or even Powers. So overall, into the story rating, what did this get out of 10, and how much do I believe the story's worth? The story got a 2 out of 10 from me, to which I believe the story is worth about 25 cents, giving an overall total of $3.25. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day. If you really want to check out some great Brian Michael Bendis, definitely check out Joy Operations, Jinx, even Torso. Until then, have an awesome day.